Hi everyone, welcome back to Young and Wifed Up. This is Marcella.
And I'm Gabby.
And thanks for joining us this week for another episode. Before we get started on our topic today, I want to encourage all of you who are not currently in our Facebook group to go and join it. It's a great way to get plugged into the Young and Wifed Up community, get linked up with some other like-minded women, and also we interact on there as well. We have things like prayer requests, we have updates on content coming up, even opportunities for you guys to request topics for us to talk about. So that is a good way to interact more with the podcast, not just with us personally, but also other women who are in the community as well.
Awesome. Another community that we have is our Patreon, and we want to take a special time to thank all of our lovely patrons, especially welcome to our new patrons that joined during our Cyber Monday one-day Amigas tier sale. So thank you guys for joining during that day. And what you can get on Patreon is exclusive content, including bonus episodes. If you join our Queen tier, you get invited to a monthly video chat with us. And I also have some digital downloads, one that you might be interested in. Even if you're not a patron yourself, you can go in our digital shop, and it's $4 for a 5-page custom coloring book that I made. And if you are a patron, you get the coloring book and all of our digital content for free. And so that particular coloring book, I have 2 of them out there. I did a fall one, and then I did a winter one last year, but this one has newer pages and it's more updated. And it is 5 different coloring pages for you to do with your children, or if you just want to cozy up and color yourself, have a little hygge moment. And that's one thing I should have talked about in our hygge episode last week is
Too
coloring.
late.
Anyway, next year. Anyway. Anyway, so if you're interested in joining our Patreon and giving us some support, we have a lot of fun stuff over there for you guys. So we are going to be ending 2024 with 2 episodes, a 2-parter for you guys. We're going to be talking about New Year's outs and New Year's ins. So instead of talking about our particular goals that we want to achieve, we're going to be talking about kind of more abstract things in these 2 episodes, like habits or things that we'd like to change or implement into our life. And today we're going to talk about what we're going to be leaving, hopefully, out in 2025. And then next week, we're going to be talking about our New Year's ins. So things that we would like to incorporate into our life. So we're going to get started with today's New Year's outs. And some of these things I have been trying to keep out every year.
These are your perpetual outs.
It's, those memes that you guys see, like New Year, same me. Like sometimes it just hits a little too close to home for me, especially with my first New Year's out. So why don't you and I just go back and forth, and we can either expand or not expand or whatever. So speaking of things that I have tried to leave out every year, and it is TV to go to bed. I can, because I have many times over the years kicked the habit of using a TV as an adult pacifier. Like that's essentially what it is. It is my pacifier to go to sleep. It is embarrassing. It is like, I'm an adult, like you don't need the TV. I do. For some reason I do. It's like a sleep trigger for me. And I think I've told you this before, Marcella, but it first started when I lived in LA in a dorm with a bunch of other girls, and everybody had different like bedtimes, and I had a way earlier schedule because I did the music program and I had to be up for sound checks really early in the morning. So I went to bed early, but all of my roommates would have lights on. They would be like living their life normally when I would be trying to go to sleep. So I had my little laptop and I would put my headphones in and I would either listen to music to go to sleep or I would watch Criminal Minds or Star Wars, whatever I had a DVD of. I think I had Star Wars, Criminal Minds, and maybe a couple little one-off movies, but those are the two that I just had on all the time. And that turned into me needing the TV to go to sleep because I was using it at the time to drown out the sounds of, so that I can sleep and not worry. But then it turned into me needing the TV to go to sleep. So then it turned into me watching The Office to go to sleep. And that has never stopped. And that was like years ago. I think it was like 2016 is when I first started watching The Office. And now I have probably watched The Office like 20 times over. And most of it is when I'm trying to go to bed. And it is embarrassing. I'm not embarrassed about it because it's like, I know a lot of people have this habit, but it's embarrassing for me because I have tried to kick this habit a million times. So what I've done is I'll kick the habit of needing the TV to go to sleep, but then I'll get sick or something will happen and I'm anxious or, something crazy happens. And then we'll be like, okay, well, just tonight. And then after I'm done being sick or done with the hard time, it doesn't go away. And now I need it again. So it's like terrible. Anyway, so I would like, and I don't mind having the TV on for me to go to sleep, like if I'm really not feeling well or something like a hard providence is happening and like I just need something to help. But it's not, once we've gone past the hurdle, I should just cut it and it shouldn't be a big deal. So that's what I'm hoping to leave in 2024. I just want to leave it here. I don't want to have to rely on it anymore. And I have proven to myself that I don't need the TV to go to sleep. Like, I don't know why I've convinced myself that I need it, but it's just a bad habit, So I'm going to leave that in 2024. What about you? Next.
Mine is sort of parallel to yours. For different reasons, but one of mine is staying up too late. And I also go through kind of like a vicious cycle, kind of like what you were saying, like you'll kind of kick the habit. I'll get back into a really good like bed or a reasonable bedtime. And then something will happen. And then it's also kind of hard because like after every baby, like your body is all of a sudden clocked into like being up all night nursing and then being up all day nursing and being up all night nursing. It's just like sleep is just like never really a thing. But then, and I think this is actually really common for a lot of postpartum women, is that they hit a spot with their new baby and it's like, oh, well, my baby is sleeping now, but I'm not. What to deal with that? And I feel like it's harder for me to like get past my brain being like, I'm gonna have to get up in a few hours and feed the baby, or I'm gonna have to get up in a couple hours to feed the baby. And sort of like having that anxiety come on at night. So then I feel like it kind of like spikes my adrenaline because naturally you need that when you have a newborn because you have to be somewhat functional for those like 4 or 5 middle of the night feedings that you're having to deal with. But then it's like, how do you get your body to switch back? That has always been a really tough transition for me. And then also just like as the kids have been getting older, once kids like reach a certain age, all of a sudden they have an imagination and then the nightmares start coming and then they're up more often. And so then there's like other things kind of like hindering you from really being able to relax at night. And so I have had an especially hard time for some reason after our third son. getting into like a really consistent bedtime. So I'll have like a good few weeks where I'm like sleeping at a normal hour, and then something will happen, kind of like what you're saying, like something will kind of like it'll be like a wrench thrown in, and then all of a sudden I feel like I'm starting from square one again. And so yeah, that's definitely something that I want to like hone in on and really figure out, because I know I I don't realize how much it affects me during the day until
Mm,
I've had really good sleep for a while, and then all of a sudden I have bad sleep for like
mm.
a few days, and then I'm like, "Oh, I feel like I've like been hit by a truck or something." And it's it's just not good. It's just terrible. And honestly, I could probably couple this with the next one if you don't mind,
Yeah, of course.
which they kind of go hand in hand, which is like the doom scrolling. And thankfully, I will say this has improved quite a lot since I took social media off of my phone, and I have like really hefty timers. I'll tell you guys the app that I use, which has been, I've mentioned it before, but just in case,
Lock me out.
yes, there are new listeners. I use the app called Lock Me Out, and I actually got my husband on it, and he's been loving it too. Um, have you been using it? Are you still using it?
No, I used it briefly and then there was something wrong with the app or something wrong with my phone and I deleted it and I haven't gotten it back. But that's going to be something I'm adding to my New Year's
Yeah.
ins.
Yeah, honestly. So, like, essentially with Lock Me Out, you set these parameters with certain apps you can only access during certain times, or if you want the app to lock you out of those apps during certain times in the day, or if you've opened it so many times and it'll lock you out on like the fifth time or whatever. There's like a bunch of different settings you can put. And in order to get back in, you have to pay them, it's like $5 or $10 or something to get back into the app. So it's like, it is really good incentive for me, because I'm like, I don't want to waste stupid money because I can't control myself to like stay off
Yeah.
my social
Yeah.
media. So it has, like, that has probably been the most effective like app limiting type program that
Mm,
I've ever used, and I've been
mm,
using it now for like a year and a half, maybe. And it's been on my phone this whole time. So the doom scrolling has improved a lot since I took social media off my phone. But occasionally, because I still have them on my tablet, even though it's way more cumbersome, no social media apps are formatted well for tablets or iPads. It's just like a horrible experience. But sometimes I will get stuck on a social media app on my tablet, and then I end up doom scrolling, and I'm like, this is why I don't have this stuff on my phone, because it's just way too easy to get sucked into it. Or even just like going on browser, like maybe on X or something like that, and just, oh my gosh, X is like such a dark hole of despair. I have a love-hate relationship with X. Yeah, that's another one that I doom scroll. And so that is another thing that can also contribute sometimes into my downward spiral into the bad bedtime thing that I was talking about
mm.
earlier. So I feel like those two together need to be gone. Um,
Yes.
anyway, you can go on to your next one.
Agree. Okay. My next ones are overthinking content creation or creative projects. I've mentioned this briefly before in another episode, but I have just kind of been, I don't know, disenchanted by the ideas of like you have to keep up with what is trending in order to be a successful content creator. It is very exhausting to not do things naturally. And I've gone
Mhm.
through waves. Like I wouldn't say that I'm completely like I've been sucked into this, but I have gotten into these mindsets where I'll be like, okay, I need to post this many times. I need to interact with this many posts in order to like gain a following on like my homemaking page because that's like my main one that I use a lot. And I don't know, I've just been kind of like done in recent months with overthinking, is this going to perform well or is this going to do well? Are people going to like it? Are people going to respond to what I'm putting out there on the internet? Especially because that particular um, Young and Wifed Up and Homemaking and Healing are like my main platforms that I do as a creative outlet and that I use as like a micro influencer or whatever. And so I don't know. And I see so many pages perform so well, and I'm always thinking like, what are they doing differently that I'm not? And then I start like
Mhm.
getting into that mindset of like, well, I just need to do these things and then I'll get to the point where I can get, sponsors or, to be able to monetize things or whatever. And then I just don't enjoy it and I hate it. And then I'm like done. And then I fall off and then I don't even want to post anything because I'm like so exhausted from
Mhm.
trying to keep up with what other people are doing and how they're putting content out there. Anyway, all of that to say that, and also some creative projects kind of had on the back burner for a while, things that I'd really like to do. Like I keep teasing over and over and over again that I want to put videos on YouTube about my experience as a TMJD patient, but I keep overthinking like, okay, I need to have a script. I need to have this, like I need to be able to throw pictures in there, and I like start getting so overwhelmed with like how much work that needs to be done for it to be this like good production value because I want it to be good. But then I don't do it because I'm overwhelmed, So I've just kind of decided, you know what? Like when I'm ready, I'm just going to do it. And I'm just going to sit in front of my phone and I'm just going to talk about what happened. And then I'm just going to post it. And because literally most of the videos that I watched leading up to different surgeries that I had or leading up to these specialist appointments, were me watching a low quality video of just a
Mhm.
person talking about their experience and their pain and what happened to them. And I ate it up and I loved it and it was helpful for me. And I'm like, I just don't know why I get in these modes of like, I need something to be like good as far as like good production value or just high quality media. And I don't know, I just feel like
Yeah.
I leave that thinking in 2024 so that I can push forward with the things that I really would like to do creatively. um Another thing that I want to do is stop leaving books pending. So books that I start and essentially don't finish, and or say I'm going to finish but I'm not really into them and I'm just kind of like not really into it, and so I leave it pending for like a year. And then I I don't want to have pending books anymore. I just want to read it and move on, or DNF it, like do not finish it and just move on. Either way, I need to move on because having things pending, like I just don't want to do that anymore. Like it doesn't serve me. It
Yeah.
doesn't help me in my goals. If I don't like the book and it's not serving me anymore, I should just move on. Anyway, what's next for you?
Another one that I have is not sticking to a cleaning routine. This is also another thing that kind of gets thrown out the window when things just kind of go crazy at home. Somebody's ill, several people are ill. If, I don't know. It can be a myriad of things. Sometimes if like Judd's schedule's like extra crazy, I feel like I don't have as much bandwidth or even physical energy to like stick to the cleaning routine. But I have been feeling um really convicted in the last year to try to like make it more of a priority and trying to find the balance between things that must be done and the things that I want to do as far as like creative endeavors in the home goes can be a little bit of a challenge for me. And so for like the next year, I'm really wanting to kind of up my game as far as like sticking to cleaning goes. And I really overthink it for some reason. Like I overthink the process. And I probably 90% of the time I will overestimate how long it's going to take me to actually do something, and then I go and do it and I'm like, "Oh, I've been avoiding this task for like 6 months and it took me 10 minutes to do. That's so lame." So I like hate thinking like that when it comes to cleaning things, and that it sometimes can be just as simple as like everything just needs to be run over with a wet rag. And like
Mm.
it I just feel like cleaning has become so overcomplicated, especially with like cleaning accounts on social media. They have like all the gadgets and
Mhm.
all of the solutions and like all this stuff, and it's like I just have like the simplest things, and it's like that can also work for you.
Mhm.
And I feel like I like freeze when it comes to cleaning, because I'm like, if I don't do it perfectly, I can't do it at all. And I'm like, no, 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 that's not how it works. Like, I can still do it, even if like it's not perfectly sparkling, spotless clean. It's still worth trying to do. And so, like, getting out of that mindset, and being more disciplined about cleaning and just like getting it done, trying to put it up at the top with things like laundry and dishes, which are, I think, naturally for people just the top dogs when it comes to cleaning. Like, you can't really throw those things out the window and then everything just kind of like falls to the wayside. I'm going to really try to not let that happen quite so much this
Mm.
next year. So yeah.
Awesome. The next one's kind of funny because it's very specific. I am
I read this, I was gonna put a note on there that I was also LOLing at it.
so yeah, I added an LOL at the end of my note because it's literally so embarrassing. I am a 29-year-old woman who needs her mommy to mend her ripped things. And, part of that, Mom, I'm going to give some of this blame to you because you never taught me to sew. And granted, I never asked or showed any
Wait,
interest
are
at
you
all.
29?
Yes,
How old am I?
you're 20.
Wait, shut up. Are you serious? Dude.
Marcella, when I was 27, I thought I was 25 still. So I kept having to ask
Okay.
Ryan.
I've been thinking for literally the last week that I was 28. I'm not
Oh,
kidding.
you know what?
I've thought about it every day. I was like, oh yeah, I'm
No,
like 28. That's crazy.
no, you're not. No. Because if you're 28, then I'm 30, and I am not 30 until May of next year. Okay.
Wait,
I am not 30.
you're right.
I would know if I was 30 just because you pulled out 6 gray hairs out of my head when I was in Tennessee. She's like, "Oh, she's 30."
I can't do math.
Marcella, I think you need to leave your mom brain in 2024 as well.
That means I have to leave my kids too.
Okay, don't do that. But
There's no escaping it.
I haven't even explained what we're laughing about. My mother is an excellent seamstress. She has sewed before I was born. Like, she's very, very good. Again, I take the responsibility that I didn't ask or care to ask to help with these things until she lived very far away from me. But I have always relied on her to mend everything for me, like anything. And the past couple years, well, I'd say very in the last not even 2 years, a year and a half, I have been on a mission to slowly um change or anything new that I buy that's a fabric, like essentially on my body, clothes or bedding, towels, etc. I've been exchanging slowly for cotton and linen, and it's been like a slow process. But that means it's more expensive, obviously. And that means if something rips, I am less apt to be like, well, I got this for $10 at Shein and it's made of plastic, so I'm just gonna put it, throw it away or give it to the thrift store. Because my clothes are becoming a little bit more expensive, and my linens are becoming a little bit more expensive because I'm trying to get higher quality fabrics that are healthier for me. When they rip, I have been panicking because I don't want to get rid of them and I can't easily replace them anymore. So in 2024, I'm hoping to leave needing my mother to mend things for me, because last time she came and visited, she mended a bunch of stuff for me, which I really appreciated. It was 2 times ago that she visited, I think. And I realized I need to just do it because I'm a grown adult and I know I can embroider these like beautiful pieces of art, but I'm like, oh, I cannot hand sew or stitch a pocket. It's like, come on. I don't know why I have separated them in my brain. So recently I've been mending my own things and teaching myself some mending stitches. So I am done waiting for mommy to come. She's probably going to be thankful too that I will no longer, when she visits, be like, hey, can you sew this for me? Anyway, the next thing, which is my lifelong mission, is to stop giving into an anxiety spiral and stop meditating on things that are worrying me, which is all very easily said, but not as easily done. But I have been on a journey the past couple years of actively fighting anxiety. And I realized that the Lord can give me the strength to actually do it. And so, one of the big things that I would like to leave in 2024 is noticing that it's starting to happen and then allowing myself to get further in. Because once I realize, like, because I've been like on this little journey of like trying to catch my anxiety before it gets too bad, I know when my thoughts are starting to run away with themselves, or I know when I can start to feel myself physically getting anxious. So when I see or hear or feel that it's happening, I want to be able to stop it before it gets out of control. So that's one of the big things that I want to leave in 2024 is giving in to the spiral, or giving in to letting my thoughts run so far away from me that I'm like meditating and ruminating on things that are worrying me and letting my thought life become out of control. Marcella, you got another one?
Yes, I have one more. My last one is outsourcing too much of my health to outside opinions. So, like, taking on others' ailments as my own. And in some ways, it's like, yes, we're like sharing in the burdens of each other, but there's still like a point where it's like, where do I stop and you begin, sort of a thing. And sometimes it can be hard, especially when you are a generally healthy person and you I think everybody experiences this to some extent because of the world that we live in. We're just like a, a, a chronically unhealthy society that everybody knows somebody with something, is like dealing with something. And so sometimes it's like I can empathize a little bit too far to where I'm then kind of like spiraling into like, oh my goodness, like what if I have that? Or like what if
Mm.
I have to think about this too? And like what if this, like I need to start thinking about this solution as well? Or is this something that I'm dealing with and I just didn't really realize it? And it's like it's not even that I'm like consciously like sitting and like thinking about that. It's just like the passing thoughts, and then you don't realize how much it affects you as time goes on. So I definitely have to be careful. Um Especially like if you are in like the crunchy world, like things having to do with being non-toxic, food, what you're using in your home, your like toiletries, cosmetics, like all of these different things. Um and instead of like obviously, I have the knowledge that I have currently and I'm like working with what I know currently. But not like digging myself into a deeper hole than I really need to. That's like then it becomes unnecessary. And just being more intuitive about what it is that I am actually feeling and not just like feeling as a result of like the anxiety of thinking about that maybe having
Mm.
to if that it's
Mhm.
almost like you like kind of start manifesting like
Mhm.
physical symptoms start to come up
Mhm.
because you it's like the power of suggestion. Like if you see somebody yawn, it like makes you yawn kind of a thing, and
Yeah.
obviously it's way more complex than that. But I think for those who deal with this can kind of get the gist of what I'm talking about. And separating myself a little bit more from stuff like that, especially like on social media. And I feel like I have like my tried and true people that I kind of like trust, like their resource and opinions, and like I feel like trying to keep searching for things that don't pertain to me,
Mhm.
don't have to do with me, with my current situation, with my current health, or my kids, or my husband, or like anything or anybody. It's just like it's unproductive, and I feel like it does more harm than good for me personally. So, I don't know. I feel like you kind of talked about this recently. I don't even remember which episode it was. If it was on our Patreon or something like that, um, where you were like talking about how sometimes it's just like it's too like when is enough enough? Like when is like having all of that information kind of fire hosed at you just like too much, and when do you need to know like when to stop? Like
Mhm.
my life cannot just be searching for answers for even like hypothetical situations, which is even
Mhm.
worse because it's like could not even be like something real that you're dealing with. So I definitely have to be really careful. And honestly, especially as a mom, when it comes to like children's health and that sort of thing, um, I I feel like I have to almost like protect myself a bit more because I can find myself becoming way more anxious about what's going on with my kids and like my own body sort of a thing.
Mhm.
So I have to um yeah, be really careful about what I'm consuming on social media, like what state of mind I'm in, because I know there's like certain times of the month where I'm more prone to anxiety, more prone to spiraling. And so being like really cautious with those things,
Mhm.
because then it becomes like a sinful obsession kind of a
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah.
And it can happen just so quickly and even like subconsciously sometimes. And so I kind of realized that like the past month or so that there like I'm like needing to like step back from a lot of that, or thinking that even just like the things that I'm coming across on the internet or even like in real life, that is just like I'm taking that information and it's like being pocketed in the back of my mind, and then I don't realize that like I start to ruminate on that over like the next few days or whatever, and I'm like, this has nothing to do with me. Like, why am I thinking about this? Like like this is not something that concerns me. It like doesn't have to do with my health. It doesn't have to do with like anybody in my family or any, I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, but I think like you kind of understand
Yeah.
where I'm coming from.
Yeah. I can't remember where it might have been a bonus episode or a main episode, or maybe you and I just chatting without recording. But I feel like, yeah, I've been very disenchanted with, I don't know, the crunchy, um the aspiration of being crunchy and natural minded has gone to a point where it is an obsession, and it gives us, especially as wives and mothers, a sense of control over
Yeah, that
things
you
that
don't.
we have no control over.
Exactly. Yeah,
We could
exactly.
have the cleanest water, the cleanest food, the cleanest textiles, the cleanest air in the world, and we would still be tainted with sin and death
Mhm.
and sickness.
Yeah.
And yes, you are right. Our Western society is we are very ill and sick, you know. And there's been place times in our history where a lot of people are sick with various things. And it's sad when right now a lot of the things are man-made things, you know. Um but I do agree with you that it's a new kind of anxiety that I feel like wives and mothers are experiencing. And I think it might have been in an episode where I said I apologized if I've ever contributed to that by sharing my health journey or
Mm,
my things that I've been switching and ditching, because I would never ever want to cause fear with in another woman who is doing the things that I'm saying I, for my own body and my own health, am avoiding. I would never want another woman to begin a panic that she is being affected
mm,
by those things or her children are being affected by those things personally. And you know, it's hard because we can easily state, well, it's true or it's a fact that XYZ thing is bad for your health. And it's like, yes, to a point, but every good thing is even tainted with sin. We will, until we have the new heavens and the new earth, we will never live in a utopia
yeah.
society
Yeah.
where we can avoid all toxins and all chemicals that are harmful for us.
Yeah.
And
It's
and
like it's an endless endeavor. Like there's
yeah,
no.
there's always
Yeah.
going to be more. There's
Yeah.
just when you think you've gotten ahead, you know, and
Right.
even like I've been on this, you know, my health journey for going on 5 years now. There's so many strides that I've taken in certain areas, and then I find out there's a whole other area that I haven't even unlocked. And somebody will
Mm,
say to me, "Well, what about the lead in your dishes?" And then I'm like, "Honey, I do not have the bandwidth.
right. Yeah.
I can't even think about my dishes right now. I'm
Yeah.
still trying to deal with the food or the water or, you know, my breathing or
Yeah.
XYZ thing. You know,
Right.
it's like I refuse to go down that rabbit hole right now. I refuse.
Yeah.
You know, there are
Yeah.
certain things where it's like I am not ready to go down that road with
Mhm.
specific things. I specifically avoid certain content or creators where I'm like, I am not ready mentally to take on another
a
thing.
whole other
I
thing.
need to
Sure.
stay in my lane. I need to do my duties, do the best that I can unto the glory of God for my home, for my family, for my health. And if I decide to get there, even like I mentioned, this whole, me switching over the past year and a half to a lot of things to cotton and linen, I still have, like, I think the sweater I'm wearing right now may be polyester, and this is something newer that I've had in the past couple months. I am not, a stickler by any means. I try to
Yeah.
live in balance as much as possible. And even those things, a couple years ago, I was like, we do not have the finances. I do not have the time to
Sure.
even
Yeah.
consider switching some of my clothing or my linens to
Yeah.
anything other than
Yeah.
what I can get at the thrift store. Like there's no
Yeah.
or Target. There's literally no way that I can do that right now. So therefore, I'm not going to allow myself to consume things or ruminate on things that make me anxious about what God has provided for me, the food that God has provided for me, the clothes that God has provided for me, the water that God has provided for me, the air that I breathe that God has provided for me. Like and again, this is like part of my giving into the anxiety spiral and meditating on what's worrying me. It goes
Mm.
hand on hand with what you're saying. We have to make a choice that we are
Yeah.
not going to do that. We can
Yeah.
choose. You
Mm-hmm.
can choose. God has made us capable to
Sure.
choose what we think about and
Yeah.
consume,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
sometimes, like, the first step has to be, like, choosing to not even consume the information in the first place or to even,
Mhm.
like, let it come in view of you.
Mhm.
And I think also we tend to forget that although we have a lot of sick people in our society, just with so many different things at this point in history, there are still healthy people out there. But you don't,
Mhm.
the healthy people are not, they're not on social media boasting about their health.
Mhm.
They're typically not out there talking about that sort of thing, unless you're talking about, like, maybe fitness influencers or, like, stuff like that, which is a whole
Mhm.
other niche. I feel like that's not so much in, like, the crunchy community. But I feel like when you're in the kind of circles that you and I run in, the emphasis is way more on the sick people that we then think that
Mhm.
everybody is like that. And it's
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
oh, well, everybody must be, poisoned by this or dealing with that or like so many different things. And it's like, I mean, like you were saying, like, well, yeah, there could be facts to X, Y, and Z affecting people, but everybody is so different that
Mhm.
people's bodies detoxify differently, people's
Yes.
bodies handle different things differently. And so we can't categorically say that this is going to be detrimental to, like, every single person because that missing piece for me was remembering there are healthy, thriving people out there, that it's real and it's possible,
Mhm.
and just, like, unfortunately, misery loves company, and because
Mhm.
people are generally trying to search for answers,
Mhm.
and obviously, our medical systems are not providing the help that people actually need. We are now having to kind of drum up these communities with each other of, are we sharing symptoms and ailments? you
Right.
know?
Right.
And we forget that there are actually healthy people out there who are
Mhm.
capable of thriving and living long, healthy lives, and not just physically healthy, but emotionally and spiritually healthy. And so being more focused on your community right in front of you, of the real
Mhm.
physical people that are, like, in your community, in your church, family, like, all of that, friends, and not so much, not getting sucked into all of the stuff that we see online, which
Yeah.
is a lot of it is unfortunately doom and gloom. And it stinks
Yeah.
because it's like people are genuinely sick. They're genuinely dealing with all of these ailments and chronic illnesses and all of this different stuff. But that's like, it's not the whole story of like
Yes.
of population in general. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I
that's another thing that
I
we just have
figured
to keep
out
in mind.
what we were talking about, where I'm talking about this more in depth, and it is a bonus episode, and I did it in September, and it's called The Crunchy Community and a Spirit of Fear. And I talk
Okay.
in depth about this subject a lot more and flesh out a lot more that what we were talking about. And it's more of a rant. I try not to rant on the bonus episodes a ton. Because, sometimes ranting can turn into like complaining and it being very negative. But I try to end it on a positive note in the episode, because I just
Mhm.
was feeling particularly ornery that month or that week that about the things that you and I were talking about. And I think that we should
Yeah.
keep each other accountable, like that, are we allowing these things to control us because we think that we can control them?
Mm.
And I think that that's something that we should leave in this year. And that I think that we should share, like, if we are those of us that are online that share, you know, I try to be myself, honest about the hard times that I have, and that, I'm not always killing it in the kitchen or XYZ, because I struggle with pain,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But I try, and this is something I hope people can take from my homemaking content specifically, is that homemaking can still be joyful even if you are suffering, and that
Mm.
there are
Yeah.
good things, and that it is not always sad or hard,
Right.
that
Yeah.
that we should be speaking positively about what we're doing and sharing in a way that's not spreading fear, but and not necessarily educating, because sometimes I think that we are not necessarily in a place where we should be educating when we're just learning ourselves in specific topics and stuff. But just sharing our life and how God is blessing it, even if it is hard. And it's not,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be all we have to spread the news that this thing is killing us all,
Yeah. Because I think at this
Anyway.
point, everybody knows all the things that are killing us.
Yes, and I'm sure 5 more years from now, we're gonna learn even more things
Yeah. And
that
I
are
feel like
killing
most
us.
of it is kind of like against our will. Like, did I really need to
Yes,
know this?
I know. It's like we're shoved into these spaces of, like, you have to know 1,000 terrible things in 5 minutes, and it's just like, yeah, let's leave
And
that.
it's not even just like Crunchy Community. I know we keep bringing that up, but it is like honestly internet, social media,
Everywhere.
yeah, it's yeah, like you were saying, it's like let's learn about 1,000 horrible things in 5 minutes and see, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, this is not good.
Yeah. Well, we just talked about all the things we'd love to leave in this year, and we'd love to know if there's any habits or things in your life that you would like to leave in this year and not bring with you into the next. And we're going to talk next week about things that we'd like to implement, things that we'd like to do more of in the new year. So look forward to that episode and let us know what you guys think in the Patreon, Facebook group, and on Instagram. We'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.